reading the minutes from the last meeting. We'll just have a financial report, and then we'll start with the minutes, with the meeting.
Oh my gosh.
That's all right, he won't be out there long.
Tell them to go to the other end. All timing.
Well, the first thing I want to ask or tell you is the state has changed their view about my giving out a telephone list. We can now do a list. I mean, we do not do your home address and your, you know. If you do not want your telephone number on the list, drop a note in the door of the office and say, do not print my
Do not
telephone
publish.
number. But it's only a list that we give to people here. The only information it has is your name and your telephone number. And it's really nice to have the telephone number of your neighbor, or for me to have a phone number. If I see your car lights on, which has happened to my next door neighbor, or something like that. But it's up to you. If you don't want your phone number on the list, drop a note in the office. Okay. This is a report for the month of May 2013. Our balance beginning April 30th in our regular checking account was $21,523.01. We had expenses of $15,891.64 and receipts of $21,570. So our balance May 31st, $27,201.37. And in our formal pooled reserve fund, which we have CDs at Bank United and CD at Wells Fargo, and a reserve account also. Our total formal pooled reserve fund is $246,663.01. Oh, I already get that. Okay.
Any questions on the financial report? Motion to approve it?
So moved.
Second? Okay, approved. All right, on the agenda, we have a couple things. Number one, the shopping carts. We talked about removing them. The board has mentioned this has been discussed. I just simply want to put a number on when we're going to do it, and have the board approve it.
If I look personally myself, can we think about getting safer for our floor, smaller maybe carts? Because I'm thinking, not so much for me, but in 10 years, I'm not going to be able to carry water, a carton of water up the steps.
Well, we will have shopping carts.
Oh, we will?
We're going to leave two of them, one in each one of the trash rooms. We're going to leave two
Second
big
floor.
ones in the trash rooms on the second floor. So if you have something heavy, like a television, a big case
Oh,
of water.
I thought they were all going to be
No,
gone.
but
Okay.
the use of shopping carts in general will be gone. That's just for moving stuff. If you want to move, you got to throw a microwave out. You want to get rid of something.
I can't bring up 4 carts of water?
Well, then you put it on, you take one of them shopping carts down, put it in there, and you bring it
Oh,
up.
I'm allowed to do that?
Yeah, that's what it's
Okay.
for.
That's what I'm
Right.
There's
asking.
an extra charge for water.
Okay.
Well, it's a water charge.
Now,
And also, we do have that hotel cart for
Bell
moving
cart.
big stuff also, which is it's
Extra.
locked up in the
But some of them-
exercise room.
some of these ladies couldn't handle that.
Well, but it's there for moving big things. If you
Gotcha.
need to move anything that big, you're not gonna move it
I
anyway.
used it.
Well, sure.
What about the 2 ends? Like Betty lives across from me, and I know it's hard for her. Like, again, it's not her, to come all the way down, so she'd have to come second floor. I'm just trying to understand.
This is only for something big. Normally, what we're recommending is you get your own personal cart, the one that folds up, goes in your car.
A lot of the people
For
have the
moving your-
folding shopping carts because they really are more convenient. They're easier to load and unload.
This is only for when you have something big. She was throwing something out.
I thought we were throwing the carts out. No.
Yeah.
There will be 2.
There's only
One on
2,
each
just
side.
say for moving, for people to
Okay.
move.
And remember.
Well, there's actually 3.
Yeah,
With
right.
the
plus
Bellman's
big-
cart.
Yes.
But remember, it's important if you do borrow that and take it, get it back soon, because somebody else may need it.
Right, you got 80 people here, that, you know, and there's only gonna be 2 carts and one down there. Right.
I've had a grocery cart since I moved here, because at the time I was working a place where I had to haul stuff in. And it's so convenient. I have it in the trunk of my car, I get out, I put my groceries in there, I take it up, and while I have it up there, I load my recyclables and bring them down, put it back in the car. It's so simple once you get used to using it.
And there are plenty of places where, you know, they don't have shopping carts. And, you know, they're getting beat up, they look ugly.
I just thought
They're
there
an
was
eyesore.
like on and I was thinking.
Yeah.
There will be one in each building.
So there will be carts to be used for when you gotta do stuff like that, of course.
Okay.
Yes.
John, what is the problem of having a cart on each end? I keep one down there and everybody uses it, everybody does.
We don't want them
We don't want
outside.
down there, and we're not having
Talking
carts down
I'm
there.
talking to the president. What?
Oh, God.
We don't want the carts no more,
Yeah.
and we can't have carts under units,
Why?
because we don't have 80 carts.
So
For
we
everybody
can't
to have an individual
We can't have one
cart.
on each end for the people that really need it.
You buy one of those little fold-up carts,
But the
you go
groceries,
in and
I
out.
buy
with
one
it.
of those little ones wouldn't even suffice.
Ace has bigger
And
ones.
also, I had, went to the fire department and had the fire marshal come over. And they said there's no problem with having it there, but it's just the law for the rules of the county.
Yes.
I thought I thought the big issue was the fire. And the other issue is that those things are tearing up our walks.
Why, that's what I thought the
Yeah.
issue was tearing up our
Yeah.
wall.
Yeah.
That's why I wondered if we could look at finding something safer
Smaller.
for our
Well, that's,
wall.
them little carts are much lighter, much smaller. The other ones, the wheels are getting bad on them, they're getting beat up. Yeah, yes, Joe?
I think the reason they don't go there is because that's defined as a common area.
Which means,
Means it's common to the condo that they have specific places where they leave the carts, and that isn't one of them. That's just a common area, or anybody could leave something in that common area.
Well, it's up to the board now to make a decision. We want to get rid of the carts. It's been talked about, it was already concluded that we were going to get rid of them.
I propose we get rid of them effective July 1st. Keep the 2.
How about?
If it becomes a hardship, we can reconsider it, but it looks like hell.
Exactly.
The carts are left all over the place, they're stuffed under the stairs for what reason? No other condos.
Let's make it by the end of July, giving them time to get their own carts and give us time to get rid of them. Give it a month and a half, a month and a couple weeks. How do we do that?
August 1st?
Make it August 1st.
Yeah, August 1st, the end of July. That agreed?
But they get 3 carts, you have
It's
the
okay.
one cart and the one on each one, yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right, we make a motion to approve it. Anybody questions on that?
John, could you just repeat it?
We're gonna get rid of them by the beginning of August, August 1st, they'll be gone.
But you're gonna keep 2, one in each area?
Yes.
Yeah, you're actually gonna have the
By
use
when?
of 3 carts.
August
Okay.
1st.
One in each building
Yeah,
in the
okay.
trash room, and then a hotel cart for,
And-
big move-ins and
And
move-outs.
those cards, if the wheels are bad on them, then
Well,
we
we're gonna
should-
keep the good ones.
Okay, look into buying something with the larger rubber wheels that won't tear up those.
That's
you
the
know.
If we have to, yes. Good idea, thank you.
They're
Okay.
expensive.
How come when I
They're
suggest
expensive.
that?
Well, that was-
Can we get new wheels?
They're over $50 a piece.
Oh, well, how much?
They're over $50 a piece.
Wheels?
Yes.
Let's go to the
Yeah, but you
public.
can probably find one with the wheels that's not $50 a piece.
We'll go to Publix and bring
Check
one
around.
back.
No, I'm talking about.
Sweet baked
Yes.
Okay, so motion's approved, Tommy, for that date? All right, the second issue is parking. And one of the questions that has been brought up, and this,
Louder, John, please.
yes, I'm sorry, one of the questions that's been brought up is with the parking situation. All right, we've had a couple issues. One was a problem with people coming in here with a boat, started a fight with Joe after he asked him to leave. Out in the middle of the road out there, a bunch of kids didn't belong in here. The police said that we have to get some special ordinance, a sign put up that says that they are not allowed in here. trucks, you know, and
Commercial
trailers.
Commercial
Yeah, they
vehicles.
pulled in with a big boat with a trailer with a bunch of kids on it. They were all drunk. They were underage drinking. Started fighting with Joe, wouldn't leave. Yeah.
Now, I have a nephew that drops off his baby to me to watch when he goes sometimes with his wife on the boat, but they don't stay, they just pull up outside, bring me the baby.
Well, that's okay. They're coming and they're going.
And they're coming and
And
going,
you're-
okay.
and they're visiting you. That's a different
Okay,
situation.
okay.
You know, if they're, when you can't park it, you can't leave it in here, that's, you know.
And then, let me ask you,
Yeah.
I don't have any problem with somebody coming with a boat, but you said, since they were visiting, now what if they're gonna stay for a couple hours?
No.
Well, if they ask and say, we put them in the corner, leave it there, and then when you leave, take it out. If you're a
Still
couple
have-
hours, that's fine.
They
But you
were
can't,
leave
you
it
can't stay overnight.
You
cannot do that.
You're
You're
gonna
gonna-
keep,
where are you drawing the
playing a
line?
game, and then you wind up putting stuff down your throat.
They can put it over at Lashley.
put it at Lashley.
Boat
Put it
parking.
Lashley and put it right across
That's
the
all.
side.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with somebody dropping somebody off, but then it goes to an hour, then it's 2 hours, then it's an overnight guest.
So
and
they
then
can't be
everybody
parked,
gets-
they can't be parked,
Yeah,
Correct.
which is the way the
good.
rules should be written.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah,
that
it's
mean-
it's gotta be that you can do the drop-offs at some sort of reasonable time.
Well,
Any-
sure.
Any sort of
Well, the back-
parking, you know, you're gonna get into an unmanageable situation to decide between 1 hour, 3 hours, 2 days.
We don't have
9
room
months.
for,
Well,
Yeah.
doesn't it
For the
depend
parking,
on the
obviously.
size of the boat?
Uh,
I mean,
no,
well, I mean, you come in here with a great big boat, which.
yeah, but if you're
Yeah.
dropping off a kid or groceries or mama's television set, I don't see that as anything that impairs the property.
No.
It's when you're parking across 6 parking places for the whole weekend, that's a problem.
yes, Jim.
hours for lunch.
I think that the circumstance of having the bar down here at the end of our parking lot, it's a magnet to people who are already half drunk.
Yeah,
So these people will enter their boat into the local waterways, go out and fish and drink all day, and then come back in and somehow believe that they can go down here and put their boat in the water because they're half drunk.
yeah. Well, you can do that, but only once.
Yes, and you have to put it through the fence.
Yeah.
But, however, I think that what we really need is a clear directive from the board to our shareholders to instruct them as to what they may or may not do. For example, we have a bunch of drunks who come down with their boat, and they decide they're just gonna park the boat and go down and get drunker at the bar. So the issue is, we need a standardized response so that anyone in this room or anyone in this condominium can pick up the phone and we all will respond in the same manner to the local police agency. Hello, this is Mr. Orth, I am at Charlevoix, we have an unlawful parking situation, people are blah, 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 blah. As opposed to no one knowing what to do, and then it's sort of like a chicken with its head cut off circumstance. So we need to standardize the community response to those sort of circumstances because it's going to happen over and over and over and over and over and over.
Yes, it is.
Because as long as people are drunk, they're simply not able to think clearly.
Yeah, you make a good point. We need a uniform internal thing so everybody understands here what the deal is. But you also have to have the public notice, which is what the cops are talking about.
Yeah,
And so-
all of the above.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
as
we
far
need
as the
to-
public notices, that's signage.
No, that's notice, which says you drunk or sober, you knew or should have known that you can't park here because it's clearly posted.
Well, that's signage.
Yeah.
Gives them a right.
Okay.
But are you
But it
saying,
gives
are
them
you
a right
saying
to
that we
call
need to go to
police.
the, are you saying we need to go to city council and have them propose an ordinance?
No. No, I'm saying you post the sign, but the importance of the sign is the legal
Warning.
notice
Right,
that they are violating something that is clearly
Yeah,
laid
of
out.
course,
Yeah.
of course. But that can be done on our existing
Doesn't matter.
fencing.
Yes,
The
definitely.
private parking sign doesn't count?
No,
Nah.
No,
People just kind of ignore it.
understand that,
You know,
but-
and you get into a parking garage and it says private parking, then you get up close if your glasses are as bad as mine, and then you find out it says 9 to 4, you know, I
Oh.
mean.
No, I
so-
was just
So people
wondering-
ignore those
no.
kind of restrictions.
but I was just thinking because it says private property, if you call the police, that they aren't.
No, the state, all
We
state
tried that,
laws
they said no.
across the nations allow anyone to make access to your property at any time, because without a sign, without signage, that prohibits them from
Oh,
doing
that's
that.
different. Okay.
So you must have signage that prohibits entry
Oh.
onto your property.
Oh.
Well, another thing on the signage on that side, we probably have 30 to 40 people a day
I know.
that think they're coming to the Sheridan.
Right.
So that creates a hazard for older people, because these people are zooming in and out and going, doing the roundabout and then going back out again. So if the signage could say somewhere, you know.
Well, actually, the Sheridan should improve their signage, and the next time you're over for breakfast, there's a new GM there. Why don't you mention that to them, that you love the place and we support their facility? But one of the problems that your facility has for our facility is that people are coming in here, and if you would, with your landscaping guys, work out a little better signage.
Well, someone must be gonna buy that piece of property there, because they just did a soil test.
Good.
Well, it might be the Sheridan, because they
No.
were out there, wasn't it?
They don't want it, can't use it.
Somebody's buying it, because they just did a big environmental drilling test out
Yeah,
there.
I see.
You know, there may also be a civil liability issue in that, since we have common knowledge that people who are attempting to make entrance onto the Sheraton grounds are riding over our property, we then have an implied obligation to notify them this is not the property. So that if they come in and say run into one of our automobiles, or half drunk like many of them are, and they come in and hit one of the columns on our parking shed, roofed over area, and damage that, I think it, all of a sudden, the civil liability issue gets very cloudy. From us telling them they can't come, we know they come in, we need to inform them that they cannot come in. So that if problems and damage does occur, it's merely on the shoulders of the sheriff.
We already had that truck.
That's Joe.
Another thing you're gonna find out, the police aren't your friend.
Now,
When I tried to get this thing straightened out, and it got into a pushing contest and everything like that, and I just stood, didn't do anything, well, when the cops finally did come, they told me I should have had the common sense to leave or to back off. That I was part of, well, maybe I was, depending on what we have down here, but I should have had the common sense to back off. Then they told me that we have to have the information posted. It's the ordinance, whatever they have, and we can find out that ordinance from our towing company would know what we have to put the signage there, or we could find out from the police department. But when those police were finished there, I was the one in the wrong with them.
Because you had the last opportunity to unwind it.
Well, I mean, if I had a weapon on me, right,
Well, also
then I would
because
have had the last
the girl was
opportunity.
Stand your
connected,
ground.
the
Yeah.
girl was connected to one of the lawyers here.
And this is your property where you're, trying to get something squared away.
Well,
There was-
the police don't decide, they enforce
You
the
had-
laws decide, and there are a lot of cops that talk tougher than their rights,
Oh,
so.
sure.
But the deal is on private property, you may not be aware that's having owned a couple of shopping centers, I can tell you, all the stop signs in the middle of shopping center, meaningless. Those are private stop signs.
Mhm.
The cops will not enforce that.
Right.
If somebody comes blowing through there and hits you in the middle of the public parking lot, they are not gonna be cited for running a stop sign, because that stop sign has no standing. So we're back to the notice about private parking and stuff like that. It's gotta be pretty explicit. I'm not an attorney, I just play one. And I didn't even think about what you said. There's a part in the landlord and tenant law where if you acknowledge a risk that is ongoing and you don't do anything about it, you're not exactly liable, but it is cloudy.
but there is risk assumption.
Yeah, and so we probably do need to overtly say, not part of the Sheridan property.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're gonna solicit bids for a 20 by 63 foot sign, which will have the.
Then we gotta get approval from the city to put the sign.
Just
No,
as
but
a-
we do need to do
But
it.
just as a footnote to what you spoke directly to, I had mentioned to John some time ago that these people that come and park here and then go over to the bar, I seem to look at life as economic opportunity. And I thought that it would be profitable if we could make a deal with a tow company. And when they pulled in, we just have them towed. They tack an extra $50 on, and we make $50 for every tow. However, which is what I would do on my property. And,
I like it.
But when I looked into that law that Joe was talking about, the tow law. And it's pretty convoluted and it's very difficult. And it isn't worthwhile for a small private entity like this to take on that sort of. But you must have signage to warn.
We do have signage on it, just go
Okay,
away.
one problem that we have with towing is we don't know if it's somebody visiting you or.
Yes, we have that problem
You see cars
too,
and
because
you
we have no
watch
way to
them,
verify
and you
that.
watch where they go, and if they go to the tiki bar, then you might
Well,
think
State
that
of
they
follow
should
people
be
around.
And you just open a
visiting.
can of worms. You'll have
Exactly.
people on welfare that are missing their $6,000 Rolex watch, you know. And it was in there when you took the car. So, I mean, you know, you just don't need that.
But it can be solved with clear signage.
The signage is on. It's
Yeah.
posted.
But private property is not.
No, it's for towaway zone, posted in all four corners.
But he's saying it needs to be more specific about this is not the
Yeah,
Sheraton
that's what the
property.
No, that's another issue. Yes,
John,
Royal.
is it feasible to look into gates?
to get
Car
gates, we
gates.
found out you have to have a setback for people to turn around. We lose so much parking area that we couldn't, it wasn't affordable. They looked into it. Jack Burke had looked into it after the hurricane. They want us to have a turnaround area, so if you pulled in and you can't get in there, you have to turn around. So we'd have to lose so much of our parking area.
If you think about it, the parking thing is utterly ridiculous. It's just people are lazy or
Of
drivers.
course. That's normal.
But you've got the convention lot
Yeah.
that is half a city block away. You have across the street,
Mhm.
as long as that lasts, and that's gonna be a little bit longer. You've got the boat ramp over there. You should have so much parking in another building, you know, so we just need to make it clear and uniformly enforce it, and then, you know, hope for the best. But over time, I'm not here every day, so I don't know like some of you do, but it seems to me that there are, even though the tiki bar is more profitable, there seems to be fewer confused people. I mean, when that first opened, everybody was trying to cut through to the parking lot. I don't see that same level of traffic.
The
So,
tiki bar has affected our condominium. My daughter was staying on the first floor for a while, and she said the traffic, not car traffic,
The foot
the
traffic.
traffic of the foot traffic going by was unbelievable. And you're sitting there with your door open, you want the air, and everybody who walks by is looking in. It was, she said, you don't understand how much foot traffic is going down
And
there.
that's
It's
affected-
changed our
And
condominium.
then the noise at night with the music.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's-
But that's, you know.
but that's a dealt hand, you know.
Yeah,
I don't see any percentage in this.
Yeah.
I will tell you frankly, the trade-off is, we should be thankful that the tiki bar is there. The music is a pain sometimes. But if that were not there, they would not be paying their mortgage, and they'd be trying to do some sort of half-assed condo stuck in that
Right.
corner,
Yeah,
which
right.
would block the view and the air and
Yeah.
everything
Are
else.
they gonna do
Well-
it again?
Well, that's what the original
I
plan
know,
was.
have they talked about
They
it?
make more money out of that tiki bar than they ever make out of
Yeah,
No, they're gonna make that tiki bar
Yes.
bigger.
bigger, or maybe
I'm
another
going
one,
to suggest
two
that
down there.
for at least 3 months, on a monthly basis, we send a registered letter to the manager of this hotel stating that because of his lack of signage, his clients are pulling in and out of our driveway. And that needs to be addressed by his business. And also that the foot traffic from his bar, these people are walking up and down our private part. That would be just, that would be as if people would decide to walk up and down your driveway in front of your house by your garage. You know, you wouldn't put up with that. That wouldn't be any, that would not give you any joy. So, there are ways we can stop, but there's also ways that they can handle. People can be controlled just like cattle and everything else. You can direct
Car
them.
traffic, I could see that. Foot traffic, I don't know how you would stop that.
It's
Yeah.
easy.
People walk, they're
You're
gonna walk
not
up
gonna
there.
stop foot traffic when you have the walk right there, the
It's
hotel
easy.
right there.
Without fencing and everything else,
Yeah.
people are gonna come in here and
No,
walk in
that's
there.
correct.
There's no other way to do
Well,
it.
that's correct.
Yeah.
I think one of the things we might see is if the Sheridan would do a little better job on a transitional sidewalk through our area there, so they go on another walk and walk down the convention center side of that, because that's the easiest to do.
Through our
Yeah, the
area.
way they don't walk down the, convention center.
Well, they
A
go
lot of
through
them-
grass.
Right there.
and
A lot of
stuff.
them do.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sure some
but,
do.
but that would get them away some,
But I mean, there is a
That's
starting
parking
point
issue.
that would lead to reasoned discussion and reasoned responses.
The other thing is to beef up our north end, Greenberry.
They put it up, but then it all died, they never let it go.
Well, he's been replacing some stuff. I think that's part of the discussion we can have. It's in their interest.
They never really did anything with it. They had a nice wall there when they first started, the wall died out, and never did anything with it.
But it's a new GM, and I'm saying, let's go back and have that discussion. Let's
Well,
let him
that's-
know that we're having that.
Yeah.
And let's,
You got some-
let's extend our watering line. Well, I don't have as great a contact with the new guy.
Okay.
But let's extend our watering line like we've talked about all the way across the north end, and us make sure that their bushes stay alive,
Yeah.
make it more difficult to go across there.
Because honestly, a couple bushes is a cheap fix.
It is.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
if
yeah.
you stagger them on the others over time, you'll
Fill in.
build
And
there.
that'll be enough for most people with the brain not to go that way, you know.
Yeah, and
I mean,
in the
really.
meantime, just a judicious use
Gives you
of
some
razor
privacy.
wire, and we
Right.
should be able to cut that.
Yeah, that's what you're gonna have to do.
Way more.
They just break it right down.
All right, the next issue on parking is, and this will affect you, Charlie, is according to the documents, motorcycles are not allowed in here. It's something that we oversee, and we, according to page, what do we have here?
It says it's gotta be, it says it's gotta be a vehicle with doors.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 doors or 4 doors,
yeah.
and I've never seen a motorcycle.
I know we had other people asking about bringing motorcycles in here, and I had to
So
stop.
that also means golf carts.
Yeah.
But you got Charlie in here with the motorcycle.
Yeah, I know, but don't make it sound like Charlie lives
Yeah.
here. Christ sake, he brings it once in a while, I'll tell him he can't bring the bike, but that wasn't the issue. The
Right.
issue was the parking over by the tiki hut.
Well, there's no,
Turn up the end.
yeah, but there's no, we've been stopping all motorcycles now, that's the issue.
That's why I just say it.
Yes.
I told Charlie 2.5 years ago, and I gave him the rule out of the book. And he said the owner told him it was okay, he had his motorcycle here.
It's not renter.
And I told him 100 times after that. He starts that thing up and outside our condo, all hours of the day and night when he's drunk going to a tiki bar. And because he had his there, one of the renters on the 3rd floor had visitors who had 3 of them in there this winter.
That's
One
on
tried to hide it under the building.
That was another one with the same
Yeah,
person.
right, they were all with the
We
renter.
addressed that with
But
the
they
owner.
see the motorcycle and they say, oh, well, we're allowed to have those.
No.
And you're not. That's what
That
that is.
really drew it to a head, having that renter have company and all of them with motorcycles.
Right. But the rule's the rule. If you don't like the rules, then change the rules.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Are most of these issues related to renters that are here?
Not all.
No.
Motorcycles, boats?
That was,
Okay.
that was an issue with a renter that was here,
The boat.
that brought friends in with 4 motorcycles, and then had another guy with a motorcycle staying. And what happened was the owner died, so we couldn't get a
Okay.
hold of the owner. So that becomes an issue there, because there was nobody to go back to.
Has there been any thought of issuing a lease or an addendum that would go to a renter that would just highlight the do's and the don'ts in bullet points, nothing
It does. They
to,
give the rules
they
and
have to sign
regulations.
something?
Supposed
Well,
to
this
sign.
doesn't apply just to renters.
It's owners
Yeah.
too, we have a few.
Okay.
No,
Yes,
but it's
well-
still, you're still back to the notice position.
Yeah.
The renter
So
needs
not-
to
the
see.
renter needs to know, we have
Correct.
rentals, and if you just do a bullet point of, you know, park in your own spot, no motorcycles, no boats, no this, no that,
We give them the whole thing, the rules and
And they have to
regulations.
sign it, and it
Sign
goes
that
back
they
to the
receive
board?
it, And they will go by it, and if not, the board will take appropriate action. Yes, Royal?
My son has a motorcycle, you know that.
Yeah.
He comes here sometimes, it's not a wild one. Does that mean he can't come and park in my spot?
Yes. Yeah, no
That's what it
motorcycles
means.
are allowed in here.
None.
Yeah, no trucks, no motorcycles, no boats, no
commercial
trailers. Long, big trucks.
You mean like the vans?
Right,
Big
oversized
anything with
trucks.
a commercial plate, right?
Truck,
Not necessarily.
yeah, big trucks, yeah. Huge trucks
Sizable
like,
trucks.
and work trucks, that type of thing. Commercial vehicles.
And a couple of scooters.
Same
We
thing.
can't say commercial vehicle.
It does say it in there. Says it in our documents.
Well, let's review this. What we're really talking about is things like box trucks, big trucks, and things like that. There are lots of people that are self-employed that have a commercial plate on their F-150 pickup, which doesn't damage us at all.
No.
Can't have
And I don't think we need to go
Commercial
there.
tip plate is one thing, but you can't have any signage without it.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah. So I'm,
right, that's
So
no
if you
problem.
have signage, you put a metal placard over it.
no, I understand.
Yeah,
I mean,
something to take off.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, Joe.
I think they specifically mentioned over 20 foot, so.
Yeah, they're talking about the
that
real
makes
big
it-
trucks.
Right, that's why I said, let's not talk about.
And obviously, you don't have the
commercial.
parking facilities.
No,
That's the
of course
problem.
not. I'm not arguing for it, I'm just,
Yeah.
I don't want us to,
Clarifying.
I don't want us to get so
Right.
out of control that the value of these properties drops by 20 grand because you can't be here unless you're left-handed and over 78. You know, I mean, that, we don't want to get to that, you know. So commercial should be things that are in fact commercial trucks with signage,
Exactly.
you know, more
Well,
than
that's
20
pretty much
feet
what it
long.
says, yeah. A commercial tag wouldn't even be considered, exactly.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. A commercial tag doesn't make it a commercial vehicle.
You mean parking, they're not bringing furniture. Right.
Oh,
Oh,
no,
no,
deliveries
you
is fine.
gotta be able to
And if they're
serve-
working here, whatever, that's fine, yeah. That states it right in the documents, yeah. You're gonna have to, like when we had the walkways done, they parked trailers and all here to work for a month that they were here, that's part of the job.
You can have people remodeling. I mean, the guy's gonna be here for a week, you know.
Right, if you're gonna have a big major job done and you come to the board and say, hey, I gotta get a dumpster put somewhere. And we say, okay, that's something that, you know, you're having it something above and beyond, you know, but to come in and just, was, you know, some tractor trailer and park it in here and go visit for 4 days. All right, that's enough of that issue. Now we'll get on with the issues of the sales and so on. As you all know, that we had, first of all, we had the issue with the annual meeting. The annual meeting was disrupted by Earl Stevenson, saying that there would be no vote. He disrupted the meeting, took over the meeting, as I had appointed people to collect the vote. I found out from our lawyers that I should have either asked him to leave because he was out of order, or I should have adjourned the meeting completely. He was totally wrong. Also, the information that he put out before the meeting, that everything was wrong, was all mistaken. He took it from the wrong part of the documents. The documents were revised, were amended in 2004. And it just so happens at that same meeting that they were amended. And to put an amendment out, you have to have 2 mailings. You have to have meetings talking about it. So there's a lot of discussion and stuff that goes on to have this done. Earl was appointed, was voted onto the board at that same meeting in 2004, so he should have known all this. Instead, he went back to the old documents and interpreted them, misinterpreted them, and then went around telling everybody that everything the board was doing was wrong. And then also put out the fact that that the board never voted to have this put on a vote. The board has to vote to allow it to go to a vote, when in fact he was there and 6 board members were there except for Brian Presley. And every board member was polled and said, yes, let it go to a vote. That was before the first mailing. But he was wrong on that point too. But since then, he has sold 2 units in here. He has sold them without approval from the board, which is in the documents. And he's holding a mortgage, which is not allowed without approval from the board. Which means he has violated the documents 4 times. And as a board member, he is fiduciarily responsible to uphold the documents. Yes,
What do you mean holding the mortgage?
he's holding the mortgage. I'll give you my property, you pay me the money.
John?
He's
Yes.
renting.
Yeah.
Yes, Cal.
On behalf of Girls Conversation this morning, he asked me to convey the following. The property is deeded by his attorney and the property is also mortgaged.
Yeah, we know.
Still against the documents.
He holds the mortgage.
Thank you.
We know.
What did you say? I couldn't hear.
Say that again so everybody can hear it, please.
Okay. On behalf of Girls Conversation, he asked me to convey the following. The property is deeded by his attorney and the property is mortgaged.
And according to our documents, you cannot hold the mortgage without permission from the board.
Well,
And you can't sell a property without permission from the board.
okay, well then
He didn't do either.
he wants to be, heard from, because this is what he wanted me to convey to everyone here.
I hear from him. So that's our issues right now. Yes.
I'd like to address the issue of the circumstances under which he acquired these various properties here.
Well, one he's owned for quite a while. The other one he bought from when Bennett died for $105, made a cash sale. A month later, he put someone else in it and turned around, held the mortgage and put him in.
My question is, or my concern is, that board members who, as a result of their ability to garner information as a board member, acting on their own behalf to enrich their own personal situation at the cost of the shareholder, if that's the case here, is a breach of his fiduciary duties. Therefore, there's far more to this than what you're bringing to this table.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yes.
It is legal and in the documents that you can sell your unit to another unit owner without board approval or permission.
I'm not speaking about that.
But that's.
I'm not speaking, that's not what I'm speaking about.
Okay, fine.
Lance.
I'm simply, my position is,
Hold on.
my position is this. A board member has access to information that other shareholders do not have. And when a board member takes advantage of this information for his or her own financial benefit, he is directly impacting shareholder profit. Because, let's say, the proper way to handle these sorts of transactions would be for the board member to come to the board and say, we have unit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up for sale. I would like to buy it. I've spoken to the owner will sell it to me. But as a board member, we have an obligation to inform the shareholders that it's for sale as well. So that shareholders have a right to purchase this property. So when the board member acts not in the best interest of the shareholders, that's a violation of fiduciary responsibility. I don't think there's any question about it. Now, all the rest of it is just extra added, but I think it's something that must be addressed.
Yes.
Well, John, you can't own, I mean, you can't rent something that you haven't owned for 2
He
years.
didn't rent it, he sold it.
But he actually didn't. If he's holding a mortgage, he's renting it, really.
Well, not technically, he
No,
sold it.
Well, that's not the same.
He changed title.
but without permission.
Right.
Right.
When we came here, almost 3 years ago, we had to have your approval before we could
Everybody
even
does.
buy.
Every person that's been, every sale here, we have to have 2 board members go get it notarized.
I would hope that the board would find this morning that it would be appropriate to address the fiduciary responsibility and whether of board members in this case, and whether or not this man fulfilled his fiduciary responsibility to me and you 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 and you. Now, what, you seem to have a comment there, Rance.
Well, no, you just went on about you and you and you. We don't need
Yeah, right, we don't need
reiteration.
it.
But my point on, and I think you probably have a very valid point. There is nothing in our current rules and regulations and amendments that dictates that to have happen.
Doesn't make any difference, Rance.
So if you want that added, you as a member of this association may start an amendment procedure.
No, that's Rance, you don't understand.
It's Lance, not Rance.
Lights, okay, lights. Listen, lights. The,
don't, John, let's keep this serious.
What is your name, sir?
I said Lance.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. You weren't clear.
Well, everybody else knew it.
Did they really?
John,
You're such a swell
John,
dude.
just-
Sorry, you.
John, could you get some order in this place?
Yeah.
Anyway, my point is, I think that the board needs to address this
Well,
fiduciary
that's what we're
issue.
trying to do right now.
And I think we
agree
need the
with you.
legal opinion.
Yes.
But the state laws override any conditions that we as homeowners create.
Yeah, yes,
Could you just please clear up something for me?
yes.
You just now, clear it up for me, Lance. If I am going to sell my property, I don't need permission from the board?
You do need permission.
Okay, so.
Earl needed permission and did
All
not
right.
get it. He was
Okay.
wrong.
All right. So because that was confusing what you first said, I misinterpreted.
If you want to sell your property to anybody in this room, you do not need permission. Only to an outsider.
Oh, no, I'm confused on that, so I'm just gonna leave it at that? and I'm
Yes, Joe.
confused.
No,
Point of information, he sold it to outsiders. They were renters or leasers here. They weren't owners.
Yeah.
If you want to sell it to anyone in this room, everyone in this room is an owner. So let's keep our apples and oranges.
well, that's what I just said. I thought.
No, but you
Yes,
made
but
it
that's
sound
But
like he
it
sold it
sounded-
to
Yeah.
a person that he was okay to sell it to.
No, I said
No,
he
he
was
said he was
wrong.
wrong. He
I
said
said
he
he
was
was
wrong.
wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they were renters.
All right.
A renter is not an association member.
No,
That's,
no.
you're talking about equity owner to equity owner.
Okay.
Yes.
So the two
clarification.
points here are on two separate units. He sold to someone who is not an owner, and he did not ask for permission, and he is holding the mortgage,
Which he has to have approval from the board.
which he must come to you folks for approval, which he did not. Correct. So that's 4 violations.
Right.
Correct.
Then there is the greater issue, which actually is the most important, which is raised by the other gentleman in terms of the fiduciary duty and I'm embarrassed to say I never even thought about it until he mentioned it. We do need clear things for officers or directors of what they have to do to buy a unit, and it should be a greater burden than the membership in general. If you think about it, half the things we're talking about is a lack of adequate notice today. And so what we probably need is when a unit is for sale or contemplated for sale, we probably ought to get it in the monthly letter, you know,
Absolutely.
as notice.
Absolutely.
And then, I don't see that a board member needs to throw himself prostrate in front of the board at the next meeting. It's just, they, like anybody else, there's a notice, if your deal is the deal, it still has to be approved. It's not, to me, permission to sell kind of grates me a little bit as a
Yeah.
capitalist. Approval of the nature of the deal is what the board is doing, okay? You can't sell it to a 21-year-old pole dancer. I'm sorry.
Why not?
Yeah.
Well, I think we need an amendment.
That we can
That was my
sell
next
to our-
one.
I think the thing that there's a couple things here that bother me personally. One is if you folks on the board here don't enforce this stuff, that makes the rest of these rules and regulations and bylaws null and void, okay? That's a big sticker with me, because we're not always in agreement with what the rules are, but we all have to live with them. And the other is that doubly important here, this is a board member. This is a board member who abused his powers, and that's very scary.
Yeah, it's a different level of
It's a terrible
misbehavior.
precedent to
Yeah.
set here.
Yeah, and I have to say, he probably didn't understand what his fiduciary obligations.
I would agree with that. I
Are,
mean, this
because-
is not Machiavelli, but I
Right,
think
because,
it's
but the history here is it's sort of been, the board did whatever it wanted to do. So that's been the history to a certain extent. Yeah, and I think, I think,
How about back and forth? What do you mean a board did whatever they wanted to do? We're not a part of this.
part of what?
I didn't do any cheating on his condo, and you say, oh, the
No, no,
board
over-
did what they wanted to do.
I'll repeat myself.
Well,
Over the years,
yeah.
and in the documents, the board is virtually an independent group acting as the representative of the shareholders that on a month-to-month or an annual basis can make decisions virtually independent of what the shareholders want and then or stand for election to be replaced if the work that you do is not acceptable. So they can act independently.
Those are two separate statements. When things come up in terms of the management of this, and there are very few or no other members here, and a decision has to be made, who is here, we have discussion, we have open questions, we don't agree. This is, we're not all, going to camp together here. I mean, we have very strong opinions. I would like to think some significant knowledge on this board, and we do in fact couch all of the arguments and much of the discussion about what's best for the condo in the long run. So I have some pretty extensive experience in this, and for all the problems we're dealing with today, this is actually one of the best managed small condo units I have ever seen. And for starters, that you got $250,000, so we don't call you Tuesday and say you have to sell your car because we're gonna lien you for 20 grand to do something. So this is a well-run board. I think there is, personality fights are inevitable, I mean, do you want a bunch of totally malleable people on the board, not looking out, not being willing to stand up to the city, not doing things? How do you think we got that street and those lights and stuff over there? I mean, so there are times you have to take strong stands. But I would agree with only your macro point that in the past, the board was not as experienced, a little more arbitrary, and less sophisticated. But this is not a problem of board governance. If I'm neither retired nor bored, if you guys want to change this out, just send me a postcard. I'm okay with it because I like the unit. But everybody here is serving and doing a good job, and I think, and frankly, even Earl has helped a lot on a lot of things. This is an issue where he is clearly at fault. We clearly don't have enough governance guidance for the board, but that is a referral. We're going to have to pay up for that. That is not for us to decide. We should agree that this needs to be addressed. We need an attorney who can look at Florida case law, the condo laws, and all this stuff, and we need to have something that will stand up. The truth of the matter is that laws are not absolute, and they are constantly interpreted, and people go through law school developing theories, okay? Well, I have a theory that if I do quick pick long enough, I will eventually win the lotto. So far, it hasn't occurred, So we need guidance that is clear that everybody can understand, and what I'd like to recommend, and in fact, I'll make a motion, is that we note the concerns about a lack of specificity in our fiduciary duties for board members and officers.
Here, here.
And that we will refer to our law firm for guidance on how to couch that and what, if any, changes need to occur in our documents.
But just as an aside, I mean, there's a lot of case law regarding
No, I know
this
that.
fiduciary issue at every level.
Of course.
Yes, and I'm an investment advisor, so I'm, I know what you're speaking of. But we need it interpreted for these 80 units, and we need it practical for these 80 units.
Because the board can inadvertently step into a place where they can hurt themselves completely unknowing.
Absolutely.
And cause a civil liability for each of you personally, completely in a matter of innocent action.
Yeah, and we don't want to do that, and we don't want to be predatory on stuff. But so, is there a second, or am I about myself?
I think it's fair.
All right.
Getting back to the issue with.
Wait, I got a.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
I got a motion in a
Yeah.
second.
What?
Just restate the motion.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
The board noted the concerns about the lack of specific guidelines for officers and directors in fulfilling their fiduciary duty, particularly as it comes to buying and selling units and other duties for that matter.
Yeah.
And that we are going to agree to refer that to our attorney for a little better guidance, something we can have, so everybody understands.
Well, basically, what we gotta do is refer to the documents.
And the documents.
No.
I'm not, well,
The fact is that he didn't go by the document.
no. Forget Earl.
What I'm saying, but that's anybody.
Just to have it
Okay, hold on.
disclose it. and
I'm
have it out
talking
there.
about at the 1,000-foot pass.
Job.
We need stronger guidance on how board members and officers treat what amounts to quasi-inside information is what he's talking about. We don't really have that much inside information. We do have more intimacy with the problems and the issues on the condo. So that needs to be firmed up, and it may just be an interpretive letter.
I can go along with that very easily, refer to our
Yeah,
lawyers. right?
and that's what the motion
I've
is,
been on
which
the-
he's second.
I'll second the motion, yes.
Charlie second.
Further
I
discussion?
understand that, I misunderstood.
Yeah, that's okay. This is apart from
Yeah.
Earl's Ms. D.
Now, I've been in communication with our lawyers, Becker and Pollock,
Right.
I think you've heard of them. And
They're the
with
biggest
this
condo
issue.
law firm.
They're the biggest in the state for Florida law, they are our lawyers. Definitely, he's in violation of the documents. It's 4 violations. He recommended a fining committee. Any violations, so we have to make a decision on that. He also sent out a letter here to his lawyer that he has to come back to the board to still has to get approval for those holding those mortgages, and I personally will not approve that. Under these circumstances, under what he has done here, there's no reason for him to hold a mortgage. Either sell it, take it back, or get a regular mortgage like everybody else should. I think there's something wrong there.
I agree. What, other than fining, what legally can we do to enforce?
That's from the lawyer.
Can
You can read it out loud, please.
These are kind of tied together, but can we
I will, I'm just reading it first.
do this vote on the
Yeah.
oversight thing and get that out of the way, so we're just talking
Oh,
about.
you want to vote on that?
In
Don't you
the
think?
event that your
Of your
client
motion.
transfers title to this unit without the association's prior written approval as described herein, the board of directors has authorized me, this is the attorney, to file a lawsuit to rescind the transaction. We trust, however, that this action will not be necessary and that your client will voluntarily comply with the demands contained herein.
So you're giving him a shot at making good on this, come to you guys and getting permission. And
I'll
then-
get permission.
Well, no, wait, but that's what that letter says. That letter says, this is what he did, but he's got a chance to come and square it with you guys, the way he was supposed to in the very beginning, right?
Yeah.
That's where that stands.
Yeah.
John,
You know,
does
part-
does
okay.
every board member have to approve this, or can it be a majority? Does every board
Not every,
member-
this needs to be a majority.
Huh?
You need a majority, 4 board members.
When you get into permissions and stuff, I think we need to go back to him. When you get in, the kind of understood language is not unreasonably withheld. I don't think we can take the position that regardless of what he does, you're not going to approve it. Trying to bust that transaction may end up that he has some damages that he can prove, and then if he says it's not unreasonably withheld, I think, you might have a fine. You may have something that occurs because he clearly, as a board member, that is totally out of line, and you got 4 separate transactions or that. So you don't just, well, have a nice day. But if you're going to have a thing that says it's got to be reviewed, then you got to review it. You can't just say, screw you, you didn't do it right. You just can't do that.
Well, because do we not have fiscal, if we deny a sale, which is not necessarily what we're doing, but if we deny a sale, isn't the association responsible to pay the purchase price to the owner? If we deny.
I don't know the documents well enough, but
I think there's something.
it may
that
be that
alludes
you
to
have
that.
a right of first refusal to buy it in, like you would on a lien or something.
Yes.
A point of information, when you get to that particular point, you notify your attorney, and it says it in here, freely speak to your attorney, see what all the choices that you have and things like that. You don't do something that on your own, but also disapproval for a good cause. Okay, that makes sense to everyone?
Yes.
Disapproval, okay, how about the person seeking approval failed to provide information, fees, or appearance required to process this application in a timely manner? Okay, he never got it. So could he be, I know an attorney would have to answer this, but is there a possibility that even after he sold this, which was totally wrong, everything, he didn't have the right to sell it? Could that possibly be a bad contract?
Yeah.
In the beginning? So if that were a bad contract to begin with, the sale is null and void, and that also takes precedent over the bit about us supposed to buy the property from him. And if we're to buy the property from him, okay, we get 2 appraisers, and they appraise the property. We don't pay $140 for that. I'm not that we're going to do that, I'm just clarifying something. But that $140,000 would never go. So he has that up there, he read the documents, but just total disregard for the condominium. And this is important for people, what they think of the community. It affects things, and negativity has been set up since the February meeting. Again, on the meeting that we had in May, he was totally out of order in that. There was only 4 of us here, but you can't say somebody's out of order if you're not on the board. He said the president was not allowed to vote by Robert's rules. That isn't anywhere in Robert's rules. The next thing, he lacks the total understanding that this body, whatever we want to call it, association, we're under both. Our bylaws is first, they're the precedent. Robert's rules are just a procedure for the meeting. So this thing is happening on, and it's affecting not everyone in this room, but people who have property that haven't been in here in years. It's something, talk about affecting the price of a property. That type of negativity affects individuals and can affect the price of the property.
And you've got to have fair rules that everybody understands that are reasonable and work for the benefit of the association. That's what the rules are for. They're not for anybody to be got, they're not for, that's the deal.
Yes, Jim.
I think that Lance's point is valid, in that we must be very careful so as not to create a unforeseen civil liability. I personally feel that, yes, any decision has to be steeped within the rules and regulations of our own organization, of this corporation. However, I also feel that we may find our strongest action through fiduciary law, state law, based upon the fact that this issue arose because he used information that was garnered through his professional, or his position as a board member. So it was proprietary. He used proprietary information for his own benefit as opposed to putting it out to all of us and open that opportunity to the entire shareholder body. So I think there's a couple different ways to do that, but we've got to be very careful. He's absolutely right. We have to be
Well, I
very...
wouldn't do anything without further,
Yeah.
consulting with our lawyers anyway.
Yeah.
Definitely, of course. Yes, Joe?
I don't think we should spend time on that, because he was in touch with the girls, even, not that he was a board member, he was like a next door neighbor or down to. So, this is like a dead horse if we get into it for this particular case, but in the future, he was trying to buy that house, from Nancy, and there was a lot that went on with different realtors and stuff like that. This is even before the woman died. So, it wouldn't have mattered whether you were a board member or a thief. I don't see how it has an effect.
Well,
I think the best governance is that which establishes the point with the least damage to all parties involved. I think we need to get clear on this. He's clearly got to either make this good or unwind it. And all of the fiduciary arguments in my unlicensed practice of law are accurate, but they require significant proof. And I just don't think we want to go there, because we don't have the specificity in all these pieces to show, and I guarantee you, someplace, Bubba Bob did a transaction sometime in the history of this, it was just like this, and it's a record and all, So what we need to do is clean this up.
Yeah.
We need to clean up these actions, and we need to clean up the forward guidance so that everybody here knows how these things will be treated. I actually like it. I never find out about things for sale. Now, I'm not buying one right now, but you talk about the last to know, you're looking at it, and in fact, my wife tells me that all the time, but, but if we use our newsletter, which is wonderfully done and interesting anyway, but it also becomes, I'm misusing the term, our paper of record, where when things are for sale, they go on there, and if you're gonna sell, put it in there, and if you're looking, why not make it a mini Craigslist? I'm looking to buy a 2-bedroom, What does that hurt? And then everybody knows what's going on here, and the sellers are likely to get a better price, and the buyers are likely to know what's happening. I mean, I think that's an easy thing for us to fix going forward.
And I would just like to restate, I think it's important so as to clarify these issues, so as to protect the board members, to prove
And the association.
Yeah, all of us.
Right, exactly.
But from an inadvertent action
Absolutely.
that creates civil liability. I mean, we've got to do everything we can do, because we're a small corporation, to protect ourselves from these inadvertently libelous
And we want
circumstances.
quiet enjoyment. Everybody bought this to have a good time. Nobody needs to get
Nobody
torqued
needs
up
all this.
every day and all this kind of stuff, So can we vote on my motion about sending that to the lawyer, and then,
We'll definitely do that.
and
You
then-
can even do it. Well, Kevin Edwards, and Walter, know what you want, I'll give you the
Why don't
motion.
you go vote?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
Right now.
Well, let's,
Make a motion,
They did.
yeah,
We
I
did.
did. It's made and seconded that we're.
second it,
Yeah.
approved.
And then we want to vote.
We have to vote.
Yeah, we all vote.
Okay,
Motion's approved.
okay. So we're gonna go back to them on that's for the overall guidance.
No problem with that,
Yeah.
that's.
No, I
think
mean,
that's.
and just get that out of the way.
I
Okay,
think
so
we should
now.
do that, yes. This way we know where we stand.
Now
Exactly.
Earl's attorney has notice, and now the members of the association have notice of where we sit and all the problems on it. So, so what is the action we need to do on this board? Do we need to have, I mean, because we really need to wait for the notice from Polikoff. Polikoff said,
He gave them the notice.
yeah,
Well, we
it's kind of
can't
a
do
demand
nothing
letter.
Until Earl comes and does,
Right,
makes the
so
next
in
move.
this meeting,
Yeah. This meeting was to let everybody know what was
Yeah.
going on and see where the board stood.
then we should just see if we can wrap up this discussion here, and have we covered all the areas, and then
Well, the only other thing is I think, I myself have no confidence in Earl as a board member.
that's a third issue. I mean,
Well, because of all this.
yeah,
Now, we can't throw him off the board.
really.
I've already checked that. The only thing we can do, the only thing that board can do is remove a president, a treasurer, a secretary, and make them an officer. But you cannot throw, the only
As
way.
a breach of duty?
Well, to say
Yeah.
breach of duty is another thing. But we lack of confidence. I have no confidence in the man as a board member,
He's not a specific officer, so that's why he can't.
not as a board member, period.
That's another thing we need to change. We've got to be able to, you know,
That's a law, that's a state law. I talked to the attorney about it. The only way to do it is that the owner membership has to have a majority vote.
so it's like a British no confidence vote that the members have to say we, no,
Yes.
like that.
So the members have to vote you off. But, you know, so you cannot be thrown off the board. Yes, Jeff?
Wow.
I've been involved in these before. That's an important rule, because when you drill down into it a little more, you could have 4 guys on a board and 5 there, and one guy is a straight guy. You want to get rid of him, because he's affecting what you can do. You're not allowed to do that. But if he were an executive officer, one of the 4 executive officers, you could vote majority vote for him to step down. He's still on the board.
But
you
no
can't-
longer an officer.
But no longer an officer. So to me, when you really look and give some thought to that, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's not a bad law from that
I
point.
clarified that with the lawyer.
I'm not arguing with you, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
get it clear myself.
Well, I want to know where the board stands on having him as a board member.
Well,
As far as, no, I got to vote of no confidence.
Well, what good does this vote do?
Well, it just shows him how we feel.
Why don't we authorize just a letter from the board that, given the circumstance and the multiplicity of you
His
know,
actions.
transgressions, that we think it's best that he consider resigning from the
Stepping
board,
down.
having violated the board's own rules.
All right, do we want to vote on that?
What do you think?
Wait, hold on.
Yeah,
Yes, Joe?
Yeah.
Well, no, I think we should send Earl a letter on what we as a board have unanimously said what he did was wrong, and we want him to rescind. I think that should all come first before we give him a letter of asking for resignation or whatever. I think maybe it should be done.
Get the
in steps.
transactions cleaned up.
Well, he still has to clarify what he's done, because the issue.
No, he's saying that.
been
Get rid
solved,
of the
but-
transactions.
But as far as him being a board member,
And do what he
I
did.
think it should be done in a 2-step process.
2 steps.
yes, Joe?
I don't see rushing into it now. We're not going to accomplish anything by doing it now. It isn't going to change the situation
Exactly.
for the board or
Yeah.
for Earl. But if we wait without making any specific decision till seeing an attorney, and that done at the board level, you know, seeing the attorney, having things ironed out, what we can and cannot do, I think that's better than making any kind of decision today or another motion to make sure we're right on target legally. We can have an idea of what we want
Right.
to do.
I agree with
But to get specifics down, to pull all the biases out of the point.
And you don't know what the response is gonna be from his attorney. His attorney might be going like,
Right.
what were you thinking?
Right.
We're gonna have to take this back to the board. You didn't
Yeah.
tell me that
Right.
this
Yeah,
was
we don't know what Earl's response is.
Yeah, so let's not make
We
it
have no
worse than it is.
motions on this, so we can't create a particular problem, and to try to take a motion back is absurd.
Is there anybody who has so little to do today, or has seen all of the summer reruns that you want to continue to talk about this for another half an hour? Or, let's cut this off. Everybody knows the deal. We're waiting for his response. Is that okay with you?
And no letter's going to be sent out then?
Right, I just,
Till we finish on the other.
Well, what?
I just have a real quick question though. I mean, now you guys sent this letter out and he's got X amount of time to address it. We want to know what's going on here,
Sure.
you know? I think there should be some sort of vehicle that we're informed about this. As a group.
How do we contact Earl? We
The
don't
lawyer.
have an address for
The lawyer
him.
got-
His
It'll
lawyer
have to
got
be
notice.
through the lawyer.
And it should be at this
Not
point, because you're talking about
Yeah.
2 real
We
estate
have no
transactions.
address.
Doesn't matter.
His lawyer
That's
does.
what I'm saying. We have to.
Yeah.
Put it on the
driveway sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, now 14
Now that
by
driveway
62. But it doesn't undermine your point that you want the rules enforced. and
Yeah.
we want a clear understanding.
Well,
Real
and
estate-
I also wanted, I just don't want this now, all right, the lawyers are handling it, blah, blah. I want to know
No.
what's coming down here.
The
about
lawyers
this.
made a demand letter to him. Okay, that's a form of a demand letter. They sent it to his attorney. We're getting back together. Well, if you want to know something that we do, and this is a technical term, half-assed, we're not getting notice properly done as completely as we need to, on several things, on the people from the sheriff and all that. We just got to beef this up. It's kind of like growing up, you know? So they've got notice. Now they have to respond. They have rights too. We don't want to create something that all of a sudden we got damages that we don't need to be fighting. We can be totally right and lose 10% of our reserves. They can run your ass into the ground with depositions and things like that.
Yeah.
We just don't want to go there. Let's be practical about the
Yeah.
management. But we're also not going to let him get by with that stuff, or Brian get by with it, or anything else, you know. I mean, that's just the way.
And I guess maybe to answer your question specifically, obviously you know everything that we know now. If something, ask anybody. I mean, we're not trying to keep stuff a secret, and other than putting the stuff in the newsletter, which may not be totally appropriate either.
We can post it,
you-
information on this board.
You could talk to any one of the board members
Send an email out to
and
people
say,
that are
"Have you guys heard anything?" And we're certainly more than willing to tell you. But I don't think legal lawsuits ought to be public information for the
No.
whole association.
Oh, no,
Not that they
that's not
can't
the-
know, but who knows who else is going to know.
That's not my issue. My
I know.
issue is that I just don't want this to quietly go away.
No, I don't think
No,
this is
none of the
going
people
away
on
in
the
any
board
way.
are any happier
I mean,
than
we're
you
paying
are.
to get a lawyer to beef up the forward procedure so we don't have this again, and we're dealing with the backwards. I mean, at this moment, I mean, if this were a law firm, that's all they can do right now. They've sent out notice, we gotta get that answer back. But some of that's kind of like a dance. It's, you know, you've seen divorce lawyers and stuff. They just, they go through the motions, you know.
Trust me, yes.
I've seen the numbers on that too.
Yeah.
John,
Yes.
also, board members, owners here should follow the rules. If they rent an apartment and their person is going against the condo rules, that person should tell that person. Now, you and I discussed this before. You said I had to put it in writing way back when that guy brought that motorcycle, which was a different one way back then. And I did put it in writing, and I was told that would be given to the board and that'd be taken care of, but it was not. But the owner of that condo is a board member, and he did not take care of that. That disappoints me.
But haven't we settled that today?
This
You
got-
have today, but
this
this
was
is
an
2.5
oversight in a couple
This is
places.
2.5 years into it.
I'm not responsible for slavery in the 1800s
Yeah.
either. We're talking about what we can do today.
Okay, but this should have been done before. We're talking about rules that the owners.
I don't mean to offend you. I'm not on this board for coulda, woulda, shoulda. I'm on this board to help make this the best condo it can be going forward with the resources we have.
And I'm here to do that too,
Okay,
because
so,
that's the only
so what
reason
we
I
don't
bought
want to
here.
do is raise everybody's blood pressure over stuff that's over the hill. Let's concentrate on the issues we have to make this a good operation. And I don't mean, I mean, I know your comment is directed to John, but.
No, John was very,
But it's
John
been
told
noted
me what to
today.
do.
No, I understand, but we, you know, it's like having children, you know, I mean, look how many men are on this board. You have a retarded guidance to begin with. Okay?
Where's the poll?
Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree with Lance about,
Yeah, that was.
I
that
think
was
as
me.
every board member here, to
Thank
me,
you.
they're honest people, and they care about us, they want to hear things. I think the idea of trying to get one of your board members off is wrong to do something like that in this place. And I don't think any of you should talk bad about the other board member, because that's really not what it's about.
Right. We're just talking about the
I
actions.
threw
Yeah.
carpet over the second floor. I did go downstairs to make sure nobody was there, but if I didn't and I hit someone, that's a civil suit against this whole condo.
Right.
Because I didn't know that was a rule. So, you know, sometimes if, I don't totally understand what's happening, but I think Earl was looking at old rules. I don't know. But, you know,
Yeah.
so things happen.
It's
and
not that
I'm
Earl
just-
is a bad person. Earl has
No.
done a series of transactions that we can't let stand because the rules are already there. And we need to make them even more clear so that we never have an Earl deal like this again. I think that's where we are.
And I think.
And we
it-
wish he was here.
Correct.
Because we didn't mean to do this because he's away. It
But-
just happens that he's away.
But if you had John and Earl here, both of them would be saying, I want him off, I want him
Right.
off. And that's not how it should be.
Which is not productive.
Thank you.
Can I leave?
Did we adjourn?
Any other questions?
Not yet?
You didn't
I
adjourn yet.
just want to say one thing.
Yes, go ahead.
No. She said she wanted to say something. No, I have
Oh.
nothing else.
I got a question.
Yes. Oh, okay. No questions? Motion, adjourned?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Point, meeting adjourned.
Thank you
Thank
for
all of you
coming.
for coming.
You know,
Ready to move in? That's right.
when we first moved in here, we were nearly turned down because we owned a van.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
So